Off to the races while the RBA naps. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another week of Insights brought to you by Ainslie Bullion and the Gold and Silver Standard. It's Monday, which means Alex is back, and today she's here to discuss all things RBA and interest rates. How's your week starting off, Alex?
It's starting off very well, better than the RBAs.
It was an interesting topic today in the news that you put together. It's something I know lots of Australians are thinking about and talking about. So let's dig straight into it. My first question was, why is the RBA really, and you said it in the title, it seems like they're having one of those midday summer naps we all love on holidays, but now they appear to be caught out and backed into a corner. And it seems like they're going to need to be playing a bit of catch up to what everyone else is doing. So can you give us a bit of background? Why are we here?
Right. So, we were talking about before how the RBA does interest rates decisions every 4 weeks, and they had the ability to get ahead because quite often the US does 6 weeks. What's actually happened is we always skip January, and because we do the first Tuesday of every month, the first Tuesday in November actually fell on the 1st of November, which being Melbourne Cup Day. And then they had their decision on the 6th of December, nothing now, and the next one's the 7th of February. In the meantime, the US, who calendar falls later than ours, also had their decision on the 1st of November, which was later than ours. Then they had December 12th, and this week they've got another one planned. So they've had 3, and we will have just a December one between.
And I remember like late or towards the end of last year, the RBA was actually patting themselves on the back saying, oh, well, we've got a lot more flexibility because we do it every month and, we can adapt if we need to in between when the US is doing theirs. But it sort of backfired at the end of the year, didn't it?
Really has backfired, because what has also happened is China opened up, Japan's started talking about not easing, the US dollars has started talking about taking away the ultra loose policy. The US, their CPI has been dropping pretty quickly along with other places. So we're asleep at the wheel while everyone else's data is going forward, and ours is actually accelerating. And it's accelerating so much that in December, we actually had an 8.4% CPI read on an expected 7.6. So we were all expecting this to be peak month, but peak month is nearly 1% higher than what they were expecting. And everyone else is dropping. So everyone else really started dropping either June or November. And we've got these things feeding into our data right now. I think it was 13.3% up just on holidays. So everyone's taken a holiday and fed into these huge CPI numbers. So just for example, we were 8.4 in December. The US peaked in June at 9.1%, and by December it was 6.5%. ECB peaked in October at 10.7%, and December saw 9.2%, and even Canada was June 8.1%, and December's seeing 6.3%. And these are countries whose interest rates right now are significantly higher than Australia because they've had the opportunity to raise them. And if you look at Canada and New Zealand just as commodity currencies, Canada's now sitting at 4.5%. New Zealand's sitting at 4.25%. And we're at 3.1% with a much hotter CPI read. So we are months behind now.
And it really struck me looking at the table that you put in the news, actually, that really all those figures you just talked about, sort of laying them out side by side, we really do all of a sudden look like a standout there going, oh, wow, like I didn't realize how much, because we keep thinking this is an overseas issue, and particularly all of the stuff was talked about with those very high rates in Europe. And when you actually look at the table, you go, well, hang on, they've pulled way back compared to where we're still sitting. So it's quite significant.
Yeah, Europe's still pretty high, but they're in, the Ukraine war with the energy prices, they're pulling back pretty quickly. We're still going up.
Yeah, but that's right. It just really struck me because our trend was just going in the wrong direction. Right. So I suppose the next follow-up, and I know, at least anecdotally, a lot of people are really worried that for us to catch up to where we need to be, or what to do what overseas has done, that it's going to be a real problem because they feel personally that they're already probably at their limit. So how does our situation stack up against overseas? Because if you've got people, that there's really room for a couple of percent there from what you're sort of saying in the differences in some of those numbers. How does that work for Australians with home loan debt that's really quite high?
Yeah, so I believe that some of the peak figures that they've spoken about for cash rate is about 3.6 in Australia. Well, you've already got Canada at 4.5%. So, and you've also got the fact that we are, the inflation's, our CPI figures are still going up. So we're behind there. We also have some of the most expensive real estate in the world. And so the room to move is a lot less than other countries anyway.
Yep.
So I did some research on this for you at the moment. So back in 2021, so during COVID, the average fixed rate mortgage was about 2.1%. 2023, they're estimating now 3.9% on fixed rate mortgages. But then this is the fixed rate mortgage cliff that everyone keeps talking about. It's already started to happen because we've gone from 2.1 to 3.9. But on variable interest rates right now, I believe at 3.6, it'll be sitting at 6.1%. And the RBA,
big jump.
It's a huge jump. So it's a household rise of about 60% in repayments. So if you're paying $1,000 now, they're saying you'll be paying $1,600. So just another 0.5% from where we are now, which, let's be really honest, looking at the data, there's probably a distinct chance that could happen in a week's time, depending on what the US and ECB do this week. They will impact the RBA's decision. But if that is hit, the RBA estimates straight off the bat that 14.6% of mortgage holders will have negative cash flows in Australia. So it's huge. So they have a very difficult decision to make. And as we always spoke about, a lot of this inflation has been fed from overseas. But I actually think this time a lot of the inflation has been fed from the fact that we just have not, that we had a lovely summer holiday.
Yeah. And lovely summer holiday, a little bit too much napping.
Too much napping, too much skiing, definitely too much skiing.
I think I just want to pick one little point out that you said there about these decisions coming from overseas, because getting those, like, that actually becomes problematic for the RBA here, doesn't it? Because if they, for example, say the US was to do 0.5%, and I don't think that's likely, but let's say they were to do that, then that just puts even more pressure on that difference, doesn't it?
Where will they go then? That will force their hand on 50 points, no matter what.
Yep.
They cannot move away from that. And we're already in huge mortgage stress, so it's going to be a really tough time. I've got a mortgage. You may have a mortgage. It's not enjoyable.
No, and I think what this has highlighted to me is I probably need to be paying attention to what happens overseas as well, because I think a lot of people forget that the being backed into a corner angle is really to do with what overseas does, because when we fall behind, like what you've highlighted in the news today, the catch up is the problem. So there's a lot of hope and finger crossing at the moment that it all just comes back to normal, so they didn't have to, and then they'd be patting themselves on the back saying, oh, well, you see, we didn't raise and it worked out okay. But now when the hand is forced, it can be really nasty.
You'd hope so. And the two main figures that fed into the Australian CPI were holidays and energy prices, and they are likely to come off. So, I mean, that also makes the decision harder. You've got two big figures that have impacted it, and they will disappear or at least come off very quickly now. So, it's not easy.
Well, Alex, thanks for all your work on all of this today. Rates are certainly an issue. Like we've said, Australians are watching closely, and I think everyone will be very curious to see what the RBA actually does next week. So thank you for that.
No problem. Thanks for having me again.
And thanks everyone for watching. Keep those comments and questions coming in on the social platforms. We appreciate those. I'll be back on Wednesday. So until then, have a great week and good luck out there.